Because I think we've also been in situations where like a person's apologizing, but they're laying it on so thick that by the end of it, you end up apologizing. That's not how apologies work. No, don't overdo it. Don't get so into the self-loathing and into the, again, the explanations and making it about you to the point where they feel like they have to coddle you now. That's manipulation. That's not cool. Don't overdo it. Hello, how's it going? I hope your day, morning, afternoon, evening, or whenever you're seeing this is just going well. If not, don't worry. You got plenty of time for things to get better, so hey, wishful thinking, right? If this is your first time here, my name is Douglas. I'm so glad to have you here. If you're a return visitor, hey, good to see you again. Today, we're going to be talking about some great ways to apologize. Apologies are not created equal, and a lot of times, we feel like when it's time for someone to apologize to us that it just wasn't hitting right, like they just didn't do it well enough, or maybe you need to apologize to somebody and that person doesn't feel like you apologized well enough. It's all subjective, but I think there are some general rules to kind of abide by to apologize well, because honestly, we're only human. We get shit wrong sometimes. So today we're going to talk about 7 effective ways to truly apologize to somebody. Let's talk about it. Okay, so I'm gonna get this out of the way because I think a lot of times when someone is going to apologize, they're really wrapped up in like their, I don't want to say excuse, but like they're wrapped up in why the thing happened or whatever they're apologizing for. And so they include the word but. The word but should not be at all associated with this apology, okay? With this apology, just take but out of the equation. It doesn't matter. This is the apology. Now, there could be subsequent conversations after this point where you are able to give an explanation or you're able to whatever, rebuttal, all that good stuff. That's later. That is after the apology. The apology should just be about apologizing. It should be about apologizing, nothing else. Take your ego out of the equation, take the explanation out of the equation, but should be off the table for the apology. Because all that's gonna do is probably make them defensive, and it makes it disingenuous. I mean, are you really there to apologize, or are you there to explain yourself? Take yourself out of the equation, apologize just to apologize. We'll get to that more in a couple other points, but like, the first point is just take but. It shouldn't be I'm sorry, but I made you feel this way, but I apologize, but no. Just apologize. Take your butt out of the situation. That's corny, I'm sorry. Okay, the next point, kind of associated with that last point, but it should be about them, not you. This is not about trying to make yourself feel better. This is not about trying to, coddle your own feelings. No, you've maybe hurt this person's feelings, you've wronged them, you have betrayed their trust, whatever it is. It should be about them, not you. So you're just there to apologize, and you're there to express what they feel, how they feel they've been wronged. You're there to acknowledge them. Take yourself out of the equation. This is just the apology. A great apology is probably going to be a conversation, okay? And it could be a couple of conversations. But like, make it about them, not about you. This isn't about how you feel. And you could get into that again later on, but this is about them, not about you. Make sure your ego is just off the table. Make sure it's just not involved, because that's a real shitty apology if you make it about you. We've all been in I shouldn't say we all, that's a generality, but a lot of us have been in a situation where it's like we feel like we need to get an apology or something like that, and then the person's apologizing, but then they're just talking about them and their experience and about how they're affected and about blah 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 boo-hoo, but it's like, hey, I was wronged here. What are you doing? Don't make it about yourself. Make it about them. Hear what they've got to say. You know what I'm saying? Take your ego off the table. A good point that's next is don't overdo it, because I think we've also been in situations where like a person's apologizing, but they're laying it on so thick that by the end of it, you end up apologizing. That's not how apologies work. No, don't overdo it. Don't get so into the self-loathing and into the explanations and making it about you to the point where they feel like they have to coddle you now. That's manipulation. That's not cool. Don't overdo it. I apologize. This is what I did, or this is how you perceived my actions to be, and I'm sorry for that. Move on. Don't overdo it. Talk about it, communicate as much as needed, but don't overdo the apology, because again, that gets into that ego. That gets into trying to just coddle our own feelings after a while. And I've definitely been in situations where a person's apologizing, but they're doing it so much where it's like, okay, God, I get it. Ugh. I feel bad for even asking for the apology now. You know what I'm saying? I feel bad for having been wronged. Don't put somebody in that situation. That's awkward. Don't do that. Just apologize and move on if you can. Speaking of moving on, while you're apologizing, don't require anything of the person. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't expect that they're going to want to have a conversation with you, or they're going to apologize back, or they're gonna don't have expectations other than you apologizing. That should be the only expectations, that you're going to apologize. Don't require anything of that person you're apologizing to, because that's not a true apology. There are strings attached with that. There are rules attached with that. That's not, no, this is about the apology. This isn't about you and how you feel. Just apologize. Take any expectations you have off the table. I'll get into that a little bit more in a later point though. Another great point is don't get into the blame game. This kind of goes into your explanations or the but statements. Don't get into the blame game. It really doesn't matter whose fault it was or what Nope, this person feels wronged and their relationship with you is important, so you're just here to apologize and maybe have a conversation. But once you get into the blame game, that'll never end, because I promise you, you've wronged them and they've wronged you. If you can think of 1,000 instances of that back and forth, and it'll just never end. And then that'll become what your relationship is. Just the blame game. Just you did this, so I did that. Well, I did that. Well, you did that. Okay, well, how is that productive? That's not productive. And then what happened to the apology? Suddenly, we're not even talking about apologies anymore. We're just playing the blame game. Don't do that. Just apologize. You can, now again, subsequent conversations can kind of get into why maybe you did whatever it was or what happened or your perspective. That's cool, but this is the apology. It's not about laying blame. It's about acknowledging how they feel, your part in that feeling, and what you can do to move on. Speaking of moving on, offer to repair the situation or resolve the situation if they're open to it. Let them know what you'd like to do. Let them know what your corrective action might be if they're open to it. Because, like, here's the deal. An apology is only as good as what you're going to do with it. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if I say, I'm sorry for slapping you, if I'm gonna slap you again. I should say, hey, I'm so sorry for slapping you. I apologize for harming you, and I won't slap you again. And if you continue being in this friendship or whatever, just know there will be no more slapping on my part. Do you agree to this? You know, like, let them know what your intentions are. Because, again, there shouldn't be any expectations, but there should be intentions on your part. How are you going to correct the situation? Let them know that, be explicit, hear what they've said, address the points that they've said if it's applicable, and tell them how you're going to address them and how you're going to correct the problem. Finally, don't have expectations of them accepting your apology. The apology should just be about the apology. And yes, in a perfect world, you'll apologize and they accept it and you're able to move on. But that's not always how it is. Life's not that simple sometimes, and sometimes they shouldn't accept your apology. Sometimes it's just about apologizing, acknowledging that you've done something wrong, them hearing you, you hearing them, and then maybe you move your separate ways. That happens. That's adulting, that's life. Don't go into an apology with the expectation that they're going to accept it, because that's not a genuine apology. That's strings attached. That's expectations, and that's not a true apology. It's really not. A true apology is just about acknowledging the wrong, hearing what they've got to say, hearing their perspective, saying and telling them what you're going to do to correct the actions, and moving on if it's possible. And moving on can mean a couple of different things. Moving on can mean moving on together. It can mean moving on separately. Be open to the possibilities, because you might have lost a friendship or a relationship or whatever it is. You might have just screwed up something entirely. But the apology is not about you. The apology is about, hey, I want to acknowledge this thing that happened. And maybe that'll make you feel good or whatever, and that's cool. But, like, the apology shouldn't be about you feeling better either. Like, apologize, and I mean, you know, and that's the thing about apologies too, because yeah, there is a part of an apology that should be about doing it because it's the right thing to do, which means it's the right thing for you to do. So it is kind of about you in a way, but like not so much to where the whole thing becomes about you, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it should be about you in regard to like, this is what you should be doing because of whatever reasons, but the focus should be on them and how they feel and the experience that they've had. What did you think of this list? Did I miss anything? Were there any examples of apologies that I could have gotten to? Maybe I'll do a subsequent video. I don't know. There are all kinds of ways I think we can be apologizing better, because we don't acknowledge one another's experience enough, I don't think. I think that's one of the disconnects in humanity, is that we just think that person is so different and their experience is so different. So like an apology has to be about my own ego, and that's not the case. So, I mean, let me know what you think down in the comments. Don't forget, I drop new content every Monday and Thursday. I post my TikToks, and I post shorts content like every other day usually. I post music content a couple times a year. So check me out and like and subscribe and share if you haven't already. Comment below, say, hey, I subscribed. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget, you're powerful, you're wonderful, and you're only human. Sometimes we screw up. So it's your best to just acknowledge that and try to move on in the most appropriate way possible. We're powerful, and we attract love, light, peace, safety, and security as long as we say we do. I will post more soon. Talk to you later.